Halloween.
Forever.
Good evening, Steven. You staying cool over there?
I'm doing my best, Brian.
Sitting in the dark?
Yep, sitting in the
As
dark.
we discussed.
Not moving. What are Steve's other tips for beating the heat? Doors and windows all open. Invite people in. Have a fan. Just like sit on top of a fan.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we'll get into some more hot tips. Steve's hot tips for beating the heat. That's going to be a new segment all summer long, guys. But before we do that, Steve, I do got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why do folks bury lawyers 12 feet under as opposed to the customary 6 feet?
Oh, I'm sure I've known the punchline to this before, but I just can't remember it. So go on ahead, Brian. What is it?
Well, even lawyers, deep down, they're really good people.
Ah, yes.
Welcome, boys and ghouls, to a very litigious minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
You know what? That does feel like it probably appeared on a popsicle stick at some point.
Yeah.
Or on a gum wrapper, something like that.
We're of the age that we grew up with, like, we only had 5 TV shows to watch, but we also only had like 3 jokes to tell as well. And it was like lawyer, blonde, racist. So it was a rough time growing up. Yeah,
we got them on popsicle sticks, or as Ron just suggested, I was about to say, but then I was like, wait, does anybody know what that is? Under a Snapple cap. Wild that Snapple was like fucking huge for a minute. Well, was that more? What year was that? In my mind, that was like leading up to the real like cola wars. But I know the cola wars were ons and offs, throughout the decades. But man, yeah, Snapple had its moment. Remember that Snapple lady?
Yes,
that was
had its
fucking
moment.
Weird.
She for sure predated like the boom of Arizona tea getting big.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Arizona tea can probably thank the Snapple lady because she came out of nowhere and she was finally offering something that wasn't Coke or Pepsi.
Yeah.
And she was like, hey, y'all, we're just having a good time. She was an affable lady who was just like, hey, everybody, we love tea. And it's like, some of it's apple juice, but some of it's tea.
It's really not almost at all tea. And also, I do not believe she has a Southern accent, as you're characterizing her as, and that is unfair of you. I think it was like a Midwestern accent. Yeah. Anyway, guys, we're not here to talk about Snapple, but we should consider talking about if we're sipping on any beers here. Steven, you got a beer over there?
I don't have a beer, but I do have something nice and refreshing because it's 90 fucking degrees. Legitimately. I know this isn't a complaint. Before we started the show, we were talking to our patron, Ron, and he's in Texas, and he says that's pretty much old hat to him, but we can't have that up here. We can't have it 90 degrees north of the Mason-Dixon.
Oh, that's and especially today, we're probably pushing 96, 98 with the heat index today.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert for me and Ron both drinking on pills. It's a little pills action, but what are you sipping on?
Oh yeah, St. Arnold's. Yeah, that doesn't make its way up this way, but I just have something that I've had on the show before. I have the Arsenal Cider House Event Blend Ginger.
Oh yeah.
So just a big old pounder of fucking sidey times.
It's crazy how ginger might be one of the only flavors that absolutely fucks when it's hot outside. And absolutely fucks when it's cold outside.
That's true.
It's both refreshing and warming. I mean, is there any other thing on the planet that does that besides ginger?
I don't know. No. Cinnamon maybe? Because cinnamon goes in horchata. And horchata fucks. Horchata fucks. So
horchata does fuck, but cinnamon is like, yeah, okay. I can see. Yeah, cinnamon or horchata is very refreshing. But good God, I do love just about anything with ginger in it. Ron's drinking some St. Arnold summer pills. I'm sipping on a little different pills. I picked up a 4-pack of from our longtime wonderful friends at 11th Hour Brewing in Pittsburgh. Ooh. Beautiful Lawrenceville neighborhood of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This beer fucks. This is one of the better, certainly, especially local Pilsner beers I've had recently. We got some good lager brewers here. All of a sudden, 11th Hour has been doing it well for a while. We talk about Burgers Brewing doing it well for a while, and all of a sudden, and Cinderlands too, and all of a sudden, you got a lot of other breweries popping up making some good ones lately. So I've been indulging, but this is their Charlotte Street American Pilsner, and I was a little hesitant because when I see American Pilsner, I think of somebody, brewed a
Bud Light clone,
German Pilsner, Czech Pilsner, whatever, or perhaps it's something like that. It's an American light lager, or perhaps it's one of those, continental Pilsners, and then they just hop the shit out of it with a bunch of like dry hop, mosaic or some shit. And I'm like, that's not really what I'm looking for. This is done with a really deft hand. And it's brewed with 100% Weyermann Extra Pale Pilsner malt, which is maybe for my money, the best continental Pilsner malt that you can buy. And then Mittelfrüh, which perhaps my favorite hop in the world, and then Strata at the end in the whirlpool, but really delicate, not over the top with the Strata. So you're getting it, it tastes like a fairly aggressively hopped Pilsner, but it's still real perfumey and floral, and it's not getting, dank or anything like that. And it's 4.4, and boy, howdy, this beer fucks. I've been through a 4-pack of it real quick.
I can see that. Does it have like a little bit of pineapple, like, taste, just a little bit from the Strata?
It's more a little bit into that like melon strawberry candy thing a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. But ooh, buddy, it is nice. So it's got some fruitiness, but it's very floral, perfumey. And I'm gonna go buy more of this beer because it's very, very impressive beer.
If I see it in my travels, I will definitely pick that up because that sounds very refreshing. I like a Strata hop. So.
Yep, I got this one down at the old Creekside beverage, and then I have one on deck. Not kind of acting out of character here, but Cinderlands released a hazy IPA, and it's their batch 1000. It's their 1000th batch of beer that they brewed, I would assume, at Cinderlands. And I haven't opened it yet, but I'm going to get into it in a second. Brewed with. They actually lay out like all the products too, not just Citra, but Citra Dynaboost. They have a couple different versions, a couple different cryo hops, a couple different Dynaboosts, some T90. These are all different hop products that you can get. But the varieties are Citra, Enigma, Columbus, Mosaic, Simcoe.
Just all of them. all of the hype hops of the past 5 years.
Yeah. So that's next on deck for me. So after I take this little tasty, little crispy, I'm going to get into something a little hazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, was one of those hop products they were talking about, like the cryo hop.
Cryo hops. Yep.
Yeah. Cause I remember I brewed an IPA with Mosaic cryo. I was just thinking that just made me think of it because you were listing off Mosaic cryo hop.
Yeah, it's like, for those of you who aren't brewers or don't know what cryo hops are, it's essentially like a more concentrated like hop powder. So it's supposed to be less organic matter in there and than typical like pellets, which are just like whole cones hammer milled up. So less non-lupulin organic matter in there. So a little bit more concentrated. That's the idea. Anyway.
They need to start introducing crystal and shatter. And fucking, so we can start doing
now they got
dabs.
the T90s, which are just like basically more concentrated pellets that have less organic matter in them. And then the Dynaboost, I think is like another like advanced hop product, but I've not been brewing a whole lot in recent years here, but I know this is what's hot on the street. I think the Dynaboost is like an aroma extract or something like that. I'm not sure. I haven't brewed with it yet.
We need to reinvigorate the craft industry, Brian, and we do that by doing viral videos of brewers doing hop dabs in the brew, just in the back room or wherever. You just gotta get that hot knife and fucking plunge it into some hop, sticky icky, suck it in. You know, that's how we'll save the industry. We'll get them.
Yeah, the Dyna Boost is oil enriched whirlpool hop extract. So it's an extract. It's an oil, super saturated oil extract. So it's all about that aroma.
So you gotta start selling that. That's essential oils, Brian. You gotta start selling that at the front of house.
Yeah.
So you get fucking woo-woo people to put it on their fucking face or hair or whatever.
Rub it on my nipples. Yeah. I rub it on my nipples every morning. Yeah. I get a Q-tip, dip it in there, jam it up my urethra every single morning.
Hop oil up the dick hole. Keep it strong. Keep it strong.
Really great. Feels really, really great. My dick is so dank. Anyway, all right. We're going to talk about. You may have seen from the title of the podcast that you most likely clicked on when you open up your podcatcher app. But we're talking about a movie from. I didn't realize this was from 2023. I thought this was brand new.
It's a movie. It's brand new to streaming.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it was on the festival circuit through 2024, and now it's finally released for everybody to stream.
Gotcha. We're going to talk about a little movie, a little independent film here from the great state of Pennsylvania, Draculaw. It's a lawyer, Dracula. We'll talk about that here in a hot second. We got to do a couple things at the top of the show. First of all, Steve, let's hear a couple more of those Steve's hot tips for beating the heat. I think it's something we should consider every episode moving forward, at least through the summertime, obviously.
So some of the ones I set up at the top of the show were being silly time, being a little silly. Here's one I actually do. Get your underwear and or undershirt if you're an undershirt wearer, as I am, and wet them in the sink. Get some cold water in them. Throw them in the freezer for about an hour. Okay. Pop those bad boys out. Slap them on. Wearing some Frozo clothes.
Wow. That's innovation. I like that commitment. I do a lot of in the summertime. My wife makes fun of me quite frequently. I got a condition that I like to refer to as hot feet. My feet get really, really hot.
Weird.
And I get up in the middle of the night, sometimes 2-3 times a night, sometimes 0 times, but sometimes more than 0 times. I get up in the middle of the night and have to go run my feet under cold water, like in the bathtub, like because my feet get so hot I can't sleep, and I have to turn the water on like cold and just run my feet under cold water, and it feels so good, and then I can go back to sleep.
See, Brian, and I'm going to suggest for you what I just suggested for everybody else, but instead of the undershirt and underwear, socks. Throw your socks in the freezer before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Get up at night, throw on some ice socks.
Yeah. See. This is what made me think about it, because when I was talking about this and my kids were making fun of me about it, my youngest did suggest that. Why don't you get like cold water and put socks in they put on cold socks, kind of thing. And I was like, that's just crazy enough to work, but I haven't tried it yet. I also just don't like to wear socks to bed, even in the wintertime. I'm not a socks in bed kind of guy.
Sure. Okay.
So anyway, that's just a little bit of struggles related to being me. One thing I will also say that is not a good idea to beat the heat, which is what I did yesterday, was stand outside in direct sunlight and cook like 50 dozen pierogies. That is not good for beating the heat.
Not at all. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, we decided yesterday. My I think I've talked about in the past. We host my wife's family hosts a big pierogi fest. We hosted the making of the pierogies this year at our house, and then my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they hosted the cooking and eating function of the pierogies, and me and my brother-in-law cooked all the pierogies. So you start them out, they come out of the freezer, you pop them into boiling water for a few minutes, just until they float, and then you put them on the black stone with a whole bunch of onions and a butter. So we do that. And just stand outside over top of a pot of like 5 gallons of boiling water and a Blackstone all day long. and only just hammering beers the entire time makes for extreme dehydration. So that's where your boy's at right now.
That would fucking rule for like Memorial Day. That does not fucking rule for yesterday.
No, it was so fucking hot. We were dying. I mean, we had, I had like a bandana tied around my head, just as like a sweatband, and I literally like rang it out at the end. Like I was just dripping with sweat. But that seasons the pierogies. My little sweat drippies. sweat drippies on the pierogies. Get some nice and seasoned up. Anyway, so yeah, stay tuned, guys. We're keeping you cool all summer long on the Halloween's Forever podcast. We should probably talk about, because we did mention last week, we do have an extra Monday in this wonderful month of June. So we're not going to mention our what movies we're going to do yet. But Steve, remind the boils and ghouls at home, first of all, what our topic's going to be for June, our showdown topic.
Yeah, so for July,
July.
Yeah, we're going to talk about cute but creepy villains. So that's going to go in all kinds of directions. And, I think most people are probably thinking the Munchies, but hey, can't do the Munchies. Already did the Munchies. Can't do that. So
we're
can't
the Munchies.
Do that one. Yep. But yeah, we are going to have a guest on for that one. And it's a guest that the audience has asked for because they haven't been on in about a year. But we're bringing back Louie from the Haunted Hangover.
Our buddy Louie from the Haunted Hangover podcast. He's always a lot of fun. I was just listening to his podcast yesterday, actually. No, not yesterday. Friday, when I was doing the other thing that's not good for staying cool in the summertime, shoveling mulch. That was my Friday. I've been just really, really dedicating myself to dehydration this weekend. But yeah, Louie from the Haunted Hangover podcast. A lot of fun. Excited to have him on for July, where we're going to be talking about cute but creepy little villains and bad guys and things like that. And you might be saying to yourself, wait, hold on a second. Hold on, Haas. What is all this talk about a showdown episode? First of all, watch your tone. I do not appreciate being called Haas. Here's how it goes. Every Monday, we put out some savory, crunchy, crispy, creepy podcast content on the internet. But the first Monday of every month, specifically, we do what's called a showdown episode. And that showdown episode, we do a big old spinny ass wheel. It's got a bunch of topics on it. We spin it 3 times. We get 3 topics. Those topics could be anything from, obviously, our aforementioned a creepy but cute. It could be a subgenre of horror. It could be a particular performer. Could be a trope. Could be a lot of different things. If you got suggestions for them, obviously shoot us a DM or an email at halloweensforeverpod@gmail.com, and we'll put it on the list. But once we have 3 that come off that big ass spinny ass wheel, then we throw it out on the social medias for our social media friends and listeners to vote. Once they vote, we have a topic. Me, Steve, and our guest, and then sometimes our collective Patreon community. They will pick. We will all pick a movie associated with that topic. During the showdown episode, we'll have a goddamn barn burner, a goddamn slobber knocker of a fight. Someone's going to dip their hands in glue, and then in glass, and then nails. Somebody else going to dip their hands in caramel, peanuts, M&Ms, and then we're going to fucking duke it out. Somebody is going to...
Did you just watch Hot Shots on YouTube again?
No, I don't know why. I immediately thought about Hot Shots. Well, because I was thinking about a weapon, a wrestling weapon. Here's where my train of thought went. I was thinking wrestling weapon, but I've been mentioning the kendo stick recently, and for some reason, my brain immediately went to barbed wire wrapped baseball bat. But I'm like, well, that's really more Walking Dead, really, than wrestling.
No, that's a Cactus Jack. That's Cactus Jack.
Oh, Cactus Jack, of course, Cactus Jack. So I'm like, wait, maybe is that more of a Walking Dead thing? Well, then that is, of course, why my brain went just completely sideways from wrestling, went into movies, and I thought about dipping something in glass, and then I thought about the caramel thing because I thought that was so funny as a kid. Holy shit.
That's such a funny joke.
Someone pissed my pants laughing the first time I saw that. Anyway, just a little quick glimpse into the 0.05 seconds it took me to think of that fucking stupid reference. Let's stretch it out in about 45 seconds. That's what the listeners want to hear. So once we duke it out, somebody is going to reign supreme. Somebody's going to take home that son of a bitch and championship strap for the month. And then, of course, to the victor go the spoils. They get to do all kind of horrible things to us, including inflict a punishment movie on us for the very next minisode. So that's about how it goes. So me, Steve, Louie, we're going to each pick, and we'll announce next week our cute but creepy movies. And then we'll give you a week or so here there to watch them, and then we'll duke it out come the first Monday of July.
I wanted to give a shout out to one of our listeners, Heather. She dropped a huge list of things to add to the wheel. So you said you had a list of things to go on the wheel. She dropped a whole huge list. So come July, the week after the first week, and we spin that wheel, it's probably going to be about 200-300 fucking things on that damn thing now.
Nice. Yeah, there's a whole... I remember we started out with 60-some topics, and now it has ballooned. Yeah, because I think I probably have a couple dozen, and then sounds like Heather contributed a bunch, so we can have a big-ass... That big-ass, spinny-ass wheel is getting to be bigger-ass and spinnier-ass every damn month. All right. Before we get into this here movie film, Steve, why don't you remind those lovely boils and ghouls at home what's going on over on a patreon.com/HalloweenIsForever.
Yeah, so you go on patreon.com/HalloweenIsForever and you get a whole bunch of goodies and goodnesses. You get on there and you get the $5 tier, and the $5 tier gives you the access to all the best stuff. You get on the live Discord shows. That means you can be in the chat right now, running your mouth. Ron's over here talking about how he was the champ last month. Well, your time's over, Ron. Now's Louie's time to step up to the bat.
Step up to the barbed wire wrap bat.
That's right.
Jack style.
But you get to be in the Discord. You get to be chatting. You get to see episodes happen live. You get to actually see Brian and I as people, because we don't put this out as a video pod, because I think fucking Zoom meetings look like shit as a fucking video pod, and I ain't putting that out as a product. No. But you can just hang out with your buddies like what everybody else is doing right now, and you also get reviews and recos. I got some more dumping soon. I got there's a movie that came out. I'll give you a sneak preview, but there's a movie that came out and it's finally on Plex. Is like a weird streamer. Plex is a weird streamer, but you can find it there. It's a movie called 11 Rebels.
Oh, I don't know this one.
It's a samurai movie. That's why I bring it up. So you hear about it.
Yeah.
But it's like if 13 Assassins was dumb. So
sure. All right.
Yeah. But I think you'll enjoy it.
All right.
But yeah, I should be writing that up soon. And then the other thing you get is a monthly exclusive podcast.
Little exclusive, baby.
Right now, we're in the middle of recording a series called 90s is Forever. And boy, oh boy, it's just a bunch of shitty comedies from the 90s. But they got horror connections. So you get to find out what those horror connections are, and then get really sad when you find out what they are. And you go, oh, why was that part of your career, bud? Ouch.
That sucks for everyone involved. These movies are absolutely kooky. Very dramatically in terms of how fun they are. And at least the ones we've went through so far, because we're only 3 episodes into the series. They do all have one thing in common. Not funny. Except for, I will say, Silence of the Hams. I did chuckle a few times, especially there was some quality Dom DeLuise work in there, but the writing was troublesome. And then the other 2 we've done after that are almost the most impressive thing is just how unfunny they are. Yeah,
like A Gnome Named Norm is super impressive with how unfunny it was, but it's also such a weird movie to even begin with. So
it's bizarre. It's bizarre. Anyway, come on over, and it's a lot of fun. You get that special extra podcast every damn month. check it on out. Halloween is Forever over on the Patreon. Okie dokie. Now, this will be this is, we always tell people, hey, reach on out to us, send us an email, send us a DM, something like that. If you got a movie you want us to watch or something like that. Well, that's exactly what happened in this instance. We had a gentleman, and I don't know, was it the director, writer, producer? Okay.
Yep.
Scott Deshane, who is, I believe this is his first film, at least on the Letterboxd. This is his first film, and certainly his first feature-length film as far as I can see. We're going to talk about 20 and 23's Draculaw, and it is what it sounds like. It's a damn lawyer Dracula. Which is when Steve sent me a text about this, I was like, that sounds funny as fuck. It's a very good concept. We'll discuss whether they stuck the landing or not as we get into this movie, but it is a funny concept, and I'll throw it out, right off the bat. I don't believe they use the term, but anyone who is a fan of What We Do in the Shadows will be familiar with the concept of an energy vampire.
Right. Yeah.
Essentially, it is very similar concept to that of an energy vampire, which instead of physically draining people's blood, you are draining people mentally, emotionally, draining their mental energy and physical energy by just like boring them, wasting their time, just tying them up in tedious tasks that they don't want to be part of, that sort of thing, right?
Small talk.
Think of the old trope of you would see a lot of times in films and TV show of people wanting to show their vacation slides. Like, that's not really a thing you see anymore, obviously, because people have social media and stuff like that. But growing up, you would see that trope all the time. Is like people having to sit there. I remember The Simpsons did a great one of Marge's sisters, making them all sit there in an early episode and look at every single play. Like, there's a picture of my right foot, there's a picture of my left foot. It's like just all the slide. It's kind of like that. That would be like the ultimate, activity for an energy vampire. But in this case, it's tying people up in litigation and in court, long drawn out court battles, essentially.
Yeah. Both in litigation and seemingly enacting just nuisance laws.
Yeah,
that
it's interesting.
Take up people's time.
That's not what I expected. Where this lawyer, so we'll get into the characters here, but not only does this lawyer tie people up in litigation, but the way he has decided that he is going to become really powerful and drain, huge swaths of the population at once is by getting in the ear of lawmakers with proposed, bills that are going to enact legislation that makes them have to do really stupid, tedious things. You know what I mean? That would just slow down and inconvenience their lives in dramatic ways. So this is a horror comedy, first of all, as you might expect. Let's go through the cast real quickly here. It doesn't look like Letterboxd has everyone on here, but the main people, the titular Draculaw, of course he's not Dracula, but he is a vampire lawyer. They just call him the counselor. He's played by James Donahue. And then we have the main protagonist, which at first, like right when I first turned on the movie, I thought it was the same guy playing both roles for a second.
Yeah. Same.
Because he has similar hairline, similar height, similar cut, but you're just seeing the top half of his face. So it's hard to tell right off the bat. But is Joshua Green, and he plays Archgabriel, like the Archangel Gabriel.
Yeah, right.
And then we have his kooky fellow lawyer friend Klaus. is played by Robert Feldman. And then we have a couple of other credited smaller roles that are showing up here on Letterboxd. Any showing up on IMDb besides those? Because there are some other characters. There's a love interest. There's a couple other folks, but they're not credited here on Letterboxd.
Yeah, his love interest Penny that we learn about is played by Bessie Amato, and then the kind of the third part of his legal team is Eva Marison, played by Heather Cole. So yeah, other than that, I mean, you can look at IMDb. I also just wanted to go back to, you mentioned how like this isn't. This seems like it's Scott's first feature. And I would say, like it's his first narrative feature, but he has a couple of other documentaries that are UFO focused.
Interesting.
So like before, like Scott seems to be a big kind of UFO guy, and he has a website called thelivingsky.com.
Okay.
Which because I was doing a little research on him, just seeing like, what else he's done, and he's appeared on some of those like kind of, Coast to Coast AM kind of knockoff podcasts that have and he was on one of those, and they said he had a website called thelivingsky.org, and I clicked on that link, and it was a fucking woo like sell you oils, go back to nature type website. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And then they credit it wrong. It's not .org, it's .com. So I want to give Scott his proper due on his blog, but you can go on there. You can see some blog posts. You can also watch those aforementioned, like UFO docs. But he seems to be of the mind of somebody who believes like there's aliens who live in our atmosphere, sort of like the movie Nope. Yeah. But his movies predate Nope. So this is something he's thought about way ahead of time before that. And I know that's kind of big in the UFO community. There's squids and jellies that are you can find like UFO footage of those.
Squids and jellies.
Jellies just floating through the delicious. Sky. Yeah.
I like that. I like that weird shit. This is it. And we do get folks who reach out to us quite often, usually like, promotional companies and stuff like that are like, hey, watch this movie. You want to watch a movie and talk about it on your podcast? It's it usually has some sort of, person tied to it that would be recognizable or something like that. Right. Most of the time, with a few exceptions, we're like, nah, dog, we're good on that. But this was, the filmmaker themselves reaching out, which I thought was kind of cool. So we said, really interesting. I thought really potential for a really funny concept here. So say, hey, let's give her a go. I'm not going to spoil ever. I'm not going to talk because. We want you to go out and support the movie and check it out. I'll be very honest about how I feel about it. You know what I mean? Sure. Just because we decided to talk about it doesn't mean I'm going to, kiss the movie's ass or anything like that. I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like about it. But I won't spoil every single thing about it because, if it sounds good to you, if you want to check it out, I think you should go check it out and support the filmmaker. But we do get introduced right off the bat to a couple pair of hands. This movie, I will say, maybe more than any other movie I've ever seen in my entire life, has more close-ups of documents being signed. I do not think in my film watching career I've seen a movie with more signatures being provided.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of signatures.
You could call it the signature of the film.
So we got these two guys right off the bat. One of them, you can tell, creepy bad guy. Another one, some sort of big old business guy, and he's getting tied up in some sort of legal proceedings. He's hiring this lawyer to, represent him. And then we get this quick, like, little narrative that demonstrates what you can expect here, which is it really spirals out of control. There's a countersuit. And then ultimately, that guy, the business guy, gets sucked into a very long and very costly and very draining, literally and figuratively, legal battle, right?
Yeah, and I think he does a pretty decent job at trying to pull this off, because we see like 3 different sets of hands that represent the big businessman,
right?
And each time you see the hands come in with a new like complaint about the litigation going on, they're visibly older hands till they get down to like this 80-year-old man's like skeletal hands. So you're like, oh yeah, this dude is either aging or being drained or both.
Yeah, and so pretty good, show don't tell here in terms of what's happening. But we do get also the the Bela Lugosi like stare of the lawyer. Although he has this kind of like, what would you call the garment that he's wearing over his face? It reminds me of Soul Reaper. Is it Soul Reaper that he has that kind of thing over his face? What is it called? Starts with a C or something. I can't think of the name.
For
Soul Reaver, that's right.
Yeah, for Soul Reaver, he had like just a big scarf. It also looks like one of the Assassin's Creed characters. Because I think it was in 4. They had like a little mask that came up from their trench coat and wore a tri-point hat. Yeah, I think that was in 4 that that Kenway wore that. But yeah, it's a look. It's a very anime look. Is the other thing it makes me think of. It makes me think of anime. For sure. The way he's just like, and his face is always covered the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's very anime lawyer vibes, for sure. What's that video game series with the? I've never played it, but you play like a lawyer. It's
Phoenix
like
Wright.
Yeah, I've never played that, but yeah, it definitely gives a little bit of those vibes. But so yeah, now the guy is now like he's old. He's in an old person's home. Penny, who's his daughter, is like coming to visit him and trying to help out, him through all this crazy legal stuff that's happening, whatever. A lot of paperwork, things of that nature. And the owner of the old people's home lives there, and it is the aforementioned Ark. And he used to be this like high-powered lawyer. Now he's given it all up, and he just like lives at the old people's home that he owns. So this is a kind of wild scene right off the bat, and I'm not 100% sure what happens. And Steve, you can give me your opinion here as well. But we've got the counselor, and then we've got the character who is my favorite character in the movie, my favorite part of the entire movie, which is Rufus. And Rufus is like his sidekick, right? His familiar, if you will. But Rufus is someone in like a half costume that is like, you ever see those costumes like you see at like Disney and stuff where they do like the Headless Horseman, and they just make the shoulders really tall so the head can kind of go down below the level of shoulders, and it just makes the like torso look really long. Well, it's that, but then he also has like a big floppy hat over top of where the head would be. So it's like he has a head there, but you can't see it because it's like either his shoulders are really big or his head's really small. Spoiler alert, we do learn later that his head's really small and he's got this hat over top of it. It's just a silly character, a lot of fun physical acting. His name's Rufus. Rufus doesn't talk. Rufus, the counselor is always trying to drain people by, basically just making their life not work the way they want to, or slow them down or whatever. So in this instance, they go to a playground, and there's one of those little spinny thing. The thing that everyone, including, like, there's still one at a park near our house we go to. Every child that's ever existed has been injured on one of these things, right? It's just like spinny thing that's got all the bars, and you just run and spin as fast as you can, or you put the little kids on it and then you stand there and spin as fast as you can until they fly off. Like, that's what every kid has been injured on one of these. I don't know what they're called.
I think they're just called like either carousels or merry-go-rounds. Like, I know that's not, but that's what I called them growing up. I called them merry-go-round. Yeah. And there's all these kids on it. And of course they, create some sort of legislation because they're like,
it's somebody's gonna get hurt on this, we want to protect the children, whatever. And they make it like just really slow. And then I guess he drains the kids, but the kids are all laying on it like they're dead. I'm like, did he just murder all those kids in the first like 5 minutes?
I don't think he murdered him, but I think this is one of my favorite visual jokes in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is they go back to the scene and like all these kids run up like they're like super intense and happy, and then they start pushing the wheel, and the wheel isn't spinning anymore because they've tightened it down, and it turns into like Conan and the breaking wheel, and they're just like in the wheel of pain, and so it's just like all these kids like slaving against this spinning.
You hear it like grinding, kind of like it's super hard to spin.
Yeah. And I think you can see some of them, like the big tell that somebody's being drained by the counselor is that like they start getting like bags under their eyes. And so it's another pretty good visual of like, you see some of the kids pushing, and then like as they come around, some of the kids in the back have, this makeup under their eyes, and like they're looking more drained and tired. But then they all kind of fall down, and like it's like they died. It's like, did Dracula just kill a bunch of kids in like the first 10 minutes of this film?
Yeah. Also, is it really, because it doesn't show it on LinkedIn, is it, and I didn't have the closed captions on when I was watching this, because we were watching a screener, but is it the counselor?
No, I just said it that way.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because I'm going to feel real stupid if I miss that the entire time. Anyway, so the dad, who's the business guy, and Penny, her daughter, meet Ark, who lives at the old people's home where the dad now is, and wants, reluctantly gets him to represent the dad. And now we're getting more examples of legislation that he's introducing, that the counselor's introducing to bum people out. Like there is this car safety thing that's just like an all-encompassing car safety system that constantly makes this like really annoying like alarm sound. The car won't open. Like it just creates all this frustration, and people can't get where they need to be, and they're just super pissed. And this is, of course, what he feeds off of. Great line, though, at this point. There's this woman, and I don't even know if we get introduced to a name of her. She's just like a random woman getting this system installed in her car because it's a law now. And she's at the mechanic, and he's like, "Is this really like necessary? Is this whatever?" And the mechanic goes, "Ma'am, this thing is probably smarter than you, and possibly me too." I don't know why it just made me chuckle. It's just such a bad. Yeah. It's just kind of like a not even that backhanded way of saying like, "I'm smarter than you. Shut up."
Yeah. It's just such like a common misogynist mechanic type thing. I'm just like, look here, broad. This thing is smarter than you, and maybe me. Maybe me.
That was a good line. Oh, I forgot about this too. For some reason, the counselor reminds me. I forgot to look up the name of the character, but it reminds me of the character of like the hotshot programmer guy from Grandma's Boy. I don't know. He just gives me that kind of vibe.
Yeah, JP.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
It's like his uncle or his dad, like his hotshot, lawyer dad. Who's like, "Don't make fun of my son, JP." Later, turd nuggets.
Think about getting metal legs. It's a risky operation. So Rufus, the all shoulders guy that we talked about, we should mention that he's keeping Rufus kind of as his familiar because he's got him enslaved essentially due to these very complicated divorce proceedings that Rufus is undergoing, and that does come back. Another, I thought, a pretty good gag here is the way that the counselor gets all this legislation introduced is he has these connections of these legislators. They're like the one guy's a congressman, I think, and he has some power over him because he's like helped him out of some sort of legal troubles that he's had. Also, there's a whole sequence where Rufus is threatening the congressman with different condiments and like strong arming him with like ketchup and mustard and mayo and jelly and stuff. There is some just like straight up silly like Looney Tunes kind of bits in this that are good. I would say overall, there's, like I said, there are some Looney Tunes bits like that I chuckled at. I wouldn't go into this thinking like comedy. You know what I mean? Like this is a laugh out loud comedy. There's, like I said, there's a couple good gags, but it's not like a cracking you up comedy kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a couple moments I did laugh, and it pretty much all involves like the monsters doing Looney Tunes stuff. And I think also, if you just think of the character design of Rufus, he does kind of look like the big red shaggy monster from Looney Tunes without hair.
Sure. Yeah.
So he kind of resembles that as well, because he's like doing the strong arm bits. I get the one thing that kind of lets me down is like we get a lot of these interstitial bits of like new laws that the counselor passes, and none of the laws he passes, like they're all kind of annoying nuisance laws, but for some reason, just I had this thought of like one of my notes just said, this movie kind of feels like the libertarian version of Christian propaganda. Like there's an evil lawyer just passing, nuisance bureaucracy laws, because all of the laws he passes are just building upon current laws. Yeah. So it feels like the satire is on current laws rather than passing something really, really absurd that you'd never heard of before. Like everybody has to put peanut shells on their sidewalk so they can have traction or what, something you've never really heard of. Something crazy and stupid.
No, it is more like, hey, there are already car safety laws, so now let's like make them more extreme to a point where they like handcuff everybody. Yeah, it definitely, I that's a good way of putting it. You definitely get the vibe that there is this kind of like that this feels like a political cartoon of libertarian publications political cartoon a little bit.
It does turn itself around though. Like it just feels this way for me for like the first, I don't know, half of the movie, but once Ark actually starts getting involved as a lawyer again, and it's like, oh, okay, our good guy is also a lawyer. It's just an illustration of using the law for good versus the law for bad. Right. But up until that point, it does have that kind of like libertarian, look how stupid all these laws are. Why can't I just do what I want?
Yeah. No, it doesn't hang around. It's not like a cloud hanging over the movie or anything like that. But early on, I was starting to get these vibes too of like, is this what we're getting into? But it's not really the case. There's some like physical gags that I just think, they're trying to punch up the comedy a little bit here, but there's like the gag where it's like head spinning around where he's in the office and like the secretary or whatever she is. I don't know if she's like his like legal secretary comes in, and I don't know. Aside from, like I said, some of those physical bits, there's not a ton of laugh out loud moments. He does put this like one of the laws has to do like full body scans on children. And this was really right around the time that I started getting weird vibes, because it was like, it kind of felt like doctors and hospitals and modern medicine hurt kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think the idea was they were giving him some sort of like high radiation scan on purpose just to harm them, because he's evil, right? That's his thing. He's a dang old vampire.
But it still feels like that's the satire is of like, look what they make you do to your kids. Everybody, is like, no, hold on. Like you have to, that's why you have to make it something completely just like off the wall, like a law you've never heard of. Cause like this feels a little too connected to like vaccination stuff and shit like that.
I was waiting for it to pop up. Yeah. I mean, I was waiting for it to pop up. I didn't think it was going to, but I was like, oh, are we going this route? Yeah.
But if you just make it something completely insane, like everybody has to like huff a balloon of helium, before 10 a.m. or some stupid shit like that. Then it becomes like a crazy, weird nuisance law that, you know, like it also provides you more comedy bits. You know, like everybody has to roller skate to work, and then you just have a bunch of people slipping and falling as they try to roller skate to work. But he enacts the law because it's safer than cars. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I don't know.
The average amount, you know, the average fatalities of a roller skating accident is much lower than that of a car. So yeah.
Yeah. Everybody has to roller skate now.
So the dad, who was the business guy at the beginning, he dies, and then the cops find like a briefcase with a bunch of evidence. So now we eventually start getting on the trail of the counselor. Ark gets this kind of like vampire origin story from this woman who is you know, she lives at the old people's home that he owns. Her name's Sasha. Also, maybe the only thing that is outdone in this movie that outdoes the signatures, the amount of signatures and document signing, is the amount of smoke effects. There's a tremendous amount of smoke effects in this movie. Yeah. No, and it's mostly vampires can I don't know, mask themselves or transform into smoke, and you know, you're a whole lot more experience with you know, the all the editing software that you can utilize out there. But it did feel like this is just like a package that you buy that's got a little different smoke effects, and it's utilized with a high degree of frequency, I would say, in this movie.
It may have even been Blender renders. Like it may have been like some Blender volumetrics that were in place. Yeah. So I think especially the ending of the film, because that was a pretty novel effect. I remember about 10 years ago where there was like an Instagram account that had like just kind of full body mock-ups that were like covered in smoke, covered in fire, covered in fucking jelly tentacles, you know, and it was just meant to show off the movement of those elements if they were rigged to a human form.
Gotcha. Yeah. So we get a lot of that. We do get the explanation of essentially what is an energy vampire. They don't call it out by name, but he's all kind of downtrodden, and you know, I guess what we're supposed to understand is that he hasn't necessarily been victimized by the counselor, but the law, if you will, if we're just going to kind of speak to it as this like singular entity, has kind of beaten him down as well, but in a professional sense. So much so that he gave it up. So he is very, you know, the sunken eyes, the big bag, blue dark circles under his eyes, all that sort of stuff. And I don't know how else to say this, but he just kind of shakes that curse off or whatever, just by, I guess, going on like a midnight run. I'm not really sure, but he does just kind of like shake that off. And now he's like, all right, I got that out of my system. Now I'm ready to rock and go do lawyering for good now. I don't know if I missed an element there, but he just does go outside for a walk and then eventually goes on like a run in the middle of the night and just, all right, he's good now.
Yeah, there's nothing that really like he's having this conversation. He's been having these conversations with this woman, and she is pushing him to get back into practicing the law. But there's no, I don't want to say inciting incident, but there's nothing that would tell you like, oh, here's where he gains his power back. You know, back as a lawyer, he's back because he has kind of like a fight with it, the whole time we've been seeing him. He's been wearing kind of, you know, just kind of the bathrobe around the house get up, and he has this fight with his shirt and smashes it with a law book because like the shirt,
I forgot to write that down. Yeah, the shirt's possessed. So I didn't really catch what they were. I'll be honest with you, I don't really understand what they were trying to accomplish there. But he is, his shirt. He just has like a white undershirt, and it's all like dingy. And I mean, I get what they're trying to symbolically overcome here, but are we meant to believe in the context of the supernatural story that we're being told that he is like cursed in some capacity?
Yeah, I think it doesn't work because it's a white undershirt. If it was like his lawyer's suit, and like he just pulled it out of the closet and put it back on, and it's like, well, maybe I'll get back to lawyering, and then he's like, no, it's taking me over, and then and then had to fight it off.
Kind of a Venom vibe to it.
Yeah. And I guess what we're really missing is kind of the redemptive permission for him to practice law again, because what we learn is that he was practicing law in such a way that it led to an accident, and that accident kills his love interest.
Yeah.
And
which I don't know what her name is. Did we get what her name
Penny.
is?
Yeah, that's Penny.
That's Penny. Okay, that's Penny. So wait, but that's a different person than the daughter of.
Yeah, that's a different person than the daughter of the guy who came into his nursing home.
Okay, yeah, I was watching this on my phone, so a little smaller screen. I was differentiating humans was becoming a challenge.
I know what you're trying to say. All white women look the same.
That's exactly what I'm saying. But yeah, his love interest, he accidentally, she dies as a result of this like project that he was working on. But anyway, her head, they can't find her head. She's like decapitated. I don't know. Let's not overanalyze it.
It is pretty funny when she dies though, because there is no grace to it.
No,
like it just gets fucking smashed by like an I-beam. It's like, oh,
yeah. So he's back in his lawyering now. He's overcome it. He hit his shirt with a book. Starts overturning some of these dumb laws. He goes to this guy, which I think I was kind of half watching for a minute, and I don't know who this person is, and I did not care enough to go back and look, but he goes and gets his dad's pen from some guy. I don't know who the guy was.
Yeah, the guy is supposed to be like his mentor. And so,
yeah, but I don't know if was he a teacher or like a law professor? Was he a former?
It was like a law professor mentor. Yeah,
gotcha.
So I think the idea was like this guy and Ark's dad practiced law together, and this guy's retired, but like still was holding on. He's like kind of like when like MacGruber has to go back into he has to get his stuff back and he has to dig it up from a grave. It's kind of like that, except for this guy was just holding on to all his stuff. He's like, I knew you'd be back to the law. Like this is the one thing I like. It's not like a pronounced joke, but the film does treat being a lawyer as like a superhero in a lot of ways. Yeah. So like, he has to go back to this old timey guy. He's like, I knew you'd be back. Here's all your stuff. I had it waiting for you. And it's just like a fucking pen. So he can do lawyer stuff with a pen. Like it's not.
Yeah. It's not like he has his like his, suit or something. It's literally, it's just a pen.
Yeah. And it's not like you couldn't get a pen anywhere that's the joke is like, you could get a pen anywhere.
Sure. Yeah. He calls Klaus, and Klaus is his like very, punny lawyer buddy who like works at, he's like this very flashy lawyer that's, I don't know, charismatic, all this stuff. And he goes and convinces him to, come and help him try to build a case against the counselor. There's also this bit where the counselor, not only does he, torture people with the law in their lives, but after death too. So he actually goes out physically to the graveyard and like still has control over people even after death. So even death doesn't get you, doesn't save you from his clutches, if you will. So he goes out and it's like literally just like torturing, spirits of the dead with limericks in the middle of the night. One of which is a bride who I don't know if she died on her wedding night or she died and then he found something wrong with the paperwork around her wedding. So he basically blackmails her into like doing his bidding as a, reanimated corpse. Anyway, oh God, what's the guy with the shoulders? I already forgot his name. Rufus goes and kidnaps Ava, who Ava was the vampire lawyer, the counselor's secretary. And she started giving them information and kind of, she turned state on them on him basically. And now he goes and has Rufus kidnap her. There's this extended scene with Klaus and the I'm just gonna call her the corpse bride. That she's chasing him in the car, then she gets dragged for a while, then her head gets detached and is like stuck in his window, and they basically do the Christmas with the Cranks bit with the gloves, except for it's her head. And it goes on for quite a while, and it's meant to be this kind of very slapstick chase scene kind of thing. I won't say they pull it off exceptionally well, but like there's some decent parts. I like the like chattering teeth of like the skull bride kind of thing, and but this is kind of the big slapstick chase scene, if you will.
Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of like a Keystone Cops type deal, which is appropriate because we're in Pennsylvania and this is filmed in Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Sweet Doylestown.
But yeah, I think this scene goes on a bit too long. Because we get it. It's one of those like, oh, okay, we get it. And then, but there's still like 5 more minutes on either side of the padding of we get it.
There's some stretching going on to get to feature length, I think, with this movie for sure.
We get some of the because it's an hour 44.
That's what I was thinking too. This could easily lose 25 minutes and just be a lot more to the point. We have some conversations with Sasha that go on really, really long. Although I will not lie. It was kind of funny when Sasha just dies mid-sentence at one point.
That's fucking great.
She's just telling a story. She's just like tongue hanging out of her mouth, dead. So, obviously at this point, Ark and Klaus are hot on, and Ava are hot on the counselor's trail, trying to build a case against him. They decide to meet at like a neutral site or something, and it's a museum. So they went and have this kind of conversation in the museum, and this is when Ark kind of really stands up to him, like I'm coming for your ass kind of thing. He starts using his own tactics against him, which is essentially delaying him. So there's a whole long several scenes that probably could have been one scene where it's just Ark coming up with reasons to delay the proceedings to the judge, and then the judge granting him these delays, and the counselor getting more and more frustrated.
Yeah, if not one scene, like just like a montage of like trying to bury the counselor in paperwork and extensions and all kinds of, like using all your tricks of the trade to, extend it out, because the one thing the Count hates more than anything else is having his time taken, because his whole thing is he's taking other people's time. You don't take his time.
Sure.
So, yeah, I also just wanted to point it out before we get too far away from it. There was a scene where Ava and Klaus and Ark are all discussing at the table. They're going over legal strategy, and they're going into what the Count is actually doing. And, it dawns on Ark. He's like, well, he's not sucking time from just one person at a time, but what if he was sucking incremental amounts of time from thousands of people at once? And I was like, do they realize that they're doing the Superman 3 fucking plot?
Well, that, and also I was like, at that very moment, I think my note too was like, this is maybe the most meta movie of all time, because that is kind of what this movie's doing to me right now too. Like not to be mean, but there are some moments that are I mean, there is some long stretches where this movie drags a lot.
Yeah. It could use another pass in the editing bay, just because so there's also I would just notice like a lot of editing mistakes myself. Like I'm not going to go through and but like there's sometimes like dialogue doesn't match to what was being said, and then there's like one weird like insert. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, just take it out. So it could use a cut down. But I just thought it was really funny that they're doing the literal Superman 3 plot of like, nobody
just
will notice.
Little bits.
Yeah, nobody will notice if it's over thousands of people, little bits at a time.
Well, and also the office space, just rounding up to the fraction of a cent, and but yeah, Rufus shows up to attack, I think, Ava. But then this is when we make the connection that the person that they called out when Sasha was explaining essentially what an energy vampire is with the old woman in the home, that old woman is actually Rufus's wife. And he's scared of her, right? So essentially she chases him off. They keep postponing the proceedings, but they don't really have anything on him. They don't really have a case. But here's how they ultimately get him. So this is a little deeper spoiler than some of the other things. I don't know that it's going to make you want to or not want to see the movie, but I'll call it out. So if you don't want to learn like the ultimate way they get him, you can fast forward a minute or so. But we call out several times earlier in the movie that Ark has this lucky penny, and it's a 1940 whatever copper penny from the year when all the copper was melted down for the war effort, and so there were only a certain amount of them, and it's worth a ton of money. We don't know that at the time. We just know it's a 19 whatever copper penny. Well, the counselor takes it from him, the good guy's lucky penny, and is caught because of like the date that he's, the judge asks him what the date is. He admits it's like whatever, I think it's 1943 or something like that. Yeah. And it's super valuable, like worth like $250,000 or something. So now he's going to be charged with grand theft, which is to say a stretch would be probably an understatement, but that's how they get him. So they ultimately, get him to break the law. But then he just crashes out basically and just gets super pissed, transforms into first like a big stone coffin, and then from the stone coffin like explodes out as a giant smoke monster, which started to give me like kind of Genie from Aladdin vibes, or not, when he like gets taken over by Jafar at the end. So then for a quick moment, the smoke monster gets up on his soapbox and is talking about laws or whatever. But then he, basically explains his whole deal. Hey, this is what I do, and then weird little callback to earlier. The lady who's like constantly freaking out about her car alarm just smashes through the side of the courtroom right at that moment. Doesn't really change anything at all, but that's just a quick little detour that happens. Again, this is where we're getting a lot of the smoke, the CGI smoke, and he explodes the courtroom. Basically just blows up the entire courthouse, right? And then ultimately, I guess it's kind of the lesson that Ark eventually kind of teaches himself or learns for himself is, how he should be using the law and like the real value that it adds, and, it kind of comes full circle. But physically, how he does it is just beats his ass with the law book, just wails on him with the law book until the smoke monster gets smaller and smaller and smaller until he like disappears.
I have to wonder if this is a reference to maybe like a Christian propaganda film, because he's hitting him with a book and it says law. Like it's just a big book that says law, which is very cartoony and funny. And a couple times throughout the movie, the word law like is either emblazoned by a flash of gold or it lights up with, holy power. And then he proceeds to beat the smoke monster's ass, by flying through the air and smashing the book into him and smashing him down.
Yeah, he does. He basically just clip art version of him flies up with like a different color smoke coming out from behind him, like he's a little rocket ship.
Yeah.
And just beats his ass with the big glowing law book.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if this is like a rip on like one of those Christian propaganda films that did it with a Bible.
Could
like
be.
It just feels very
like that. Yeah. For sure. It's given all those types of vibes, but just replace Jeebus with the law.
With the law.
Yeah. So he now goes back, presumably everything is okie dokie at this point. He goes back to the counselor's office because he's going to have to kind of try to help undo whatever, all the things that he's done. And what I thought was a fun little surprise gag. He goes into like his closet, where he expects to find like, all of his documents and all that stuff. And it's just Ava and Klaus. And they're just sitting at a card table doing a puzzle. Like they've been in there the whole time. He's kept them in there.
Yeah.
For however long this has been since they disappeared and we thought they were dead. But they're just doing a puzzle back there with some other random lawyer that I don't think we're supposed to know who it is. But he's just like, yeah, they're just kind of really into doing puzzles. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like that's all they got to do back there. They're now getting time sucked as well.
And then also like, I'll be completely honest. At this point, I was just I was waiting for this thing to be over. But there's Penny, and I guess Penny is like in his computer.
Yeah,
like it looked like she was on the screen. And so you're like, oh, he has her like trapped in this like magic computer. But then like her hair is like the cord to the computer.
Yeah.
But then he pulls the screen off of the computer and it's just like kind of a box with her head in it. And it's just her head. And of course, we learned earlier that they never found her head. So he's been keeping her alive, just her head in this like fake magic computer or something. I actually rewound this. I'm like, am I missing something that's happening here? But I don't think I was. I think it's just a little hard to follow exactly what's happening. I also could just be, I think I'm just thinking about it too much. Like it's just her head in a magic computer.
Yeah, no, this was just like a hat on a hat thing that didn't need to happen. Like, yeah, the whole thing was like Ark was supposed to be able to forgive himself for the accident that happened. Mm-hmm. He didn't need to reconnect this because this is the second time I'm going to reference MacGruber, but this feels like when after MacGruber has sex with, what's her name? St. Clair or whatever. The Kristen Wiig character. He has sex with the Kristen Wiig character, but then runs off to the graveyard and then has sex with his ghost wife played by Maya Rudolph.
Right.
Like it felt like that, but like the less funny version because there's nothing as funny as Will Forte bare ass thrusting in a cemetery.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot. I'm gonna shoot.
Yeah. It's so fucking insane. That's one of the more insane movies I've ever seen in my fucking life. I love that movie.
This is funny. That might be the funniest thing I'll ever see in my life.
I mean, the first time I watched it, I remember Kate and I watched it just absolutely pissing ourselves.
I remember that movie hurting me. Like that was one of those literal stitches underneath the rib, like roll over fucking moments.
Well, because then also like it's this really romantic moment, and then it just the music drops out, and it's like from a distance, and he's just like,
yeah. That's oh god! If you guys haven't seen MacGruber, go fucking watch that movie. Jesus Christ, that's the funniest movie ever.
Yeah. So then he gets her out of there, and then there's the scene of him and Penny kind of like embracing, but then also I guess he's kind of like saying goodbye to her. But now he's gonna marry the other girl. What's her name again? My God, I almost forgot again. But he's going to he's like proposing to her. You know, they're out like walking in a park or whatever. He's proposing to her. And his whole personality is being a lawyer. Like he proposes to her in like lawyer talk, which sounds like it would make for a happy marriage. Just like, my whole personality is being a lawyer. Let's be married to each other. But obviously that's the gag. They do decide to go live at the old people's home and essentially fight monsters with the lawyering. So he becomes like a lawyering Van Helsing at this point, right? Where he's going and like all these people that are quote unquote monsters because they, you know, you imagine he's going after, you know, patent trolls and like and like people who do fake hit and runs and like ambulance chaser, that sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So they're going to go on fighting evil with the law. We get back to Rufus. We do drop in on what happened to Rufus. Rufus ends up in jail, and he ends up we end up getting his hat removed, and he does have a weird little shrunken head. I don't know that it explains why he has a weird little shrunken head. No. But Rufus has a weird little shrunken head, and he ends up with a cell right across from his wife. So that's bumming Rufus out.
Yep.
And then
I think isn't there a conflict of interest of a lawyer running the same prison where he imprisons a bunch of monsters? That feels like a conflict of interest, and he should now be investigated.
Now, is he running the prison?
Yeah, it's his. He owns it.
Yeah, I guess. Wait, is it the? Oh yeah, it's the old people's home.
Yeah, it's the old people's home, and he's the one who literally wheels Rufus into Rufus's room. Like, you can't be guard and warden and private property owner and the lawyer who put these people there. That's a for sure conflict of interest. Like, it's bad enough we have judges in the pockets of these private prisons. Now you got a lawyer sending these monsters to jail. I don't even know what those monsters' crimes were. They didn't spell it out. He just gives us a whole montage of, you have to get the slime off the street. And people are like, boo, they're ugly. Send them to jail.
I wonder if you go back and watch again, we missed it, but like the prison is actually in Venezuela too. Like it's a whole like prison for profit thing. And he's just railroading all these poor ugly people that aren't actually monsters. Anyway, the final scene is we get this lone cowboy walking into a dingy, dark law office, and he's asking for help. He wants to sue somebody or something, and of course the lawyer who addresses him, we don't see his face, we just see his hands, but it seems to be our old buddy, the counselor, and he's back in some capacity as he's gonna start his lawyer and all over again.
Yep, he set up a new shingle in a strip mall.
Yeah. So he's got the whole, he's got a little Better Call Saul situation set up over there. So that is Draculaw. I will say in summary, I didn't dislike it. I always love to see unique, weird movies made by, really, one, obviously a lot of people involved in the production, but written, directed, produced by the same person, and obviously a small indie filmmaker as well. Always want to support those. I think this is a great first pass at what could be a really interesting, funny idea. If I was being paid to punch up this, I would say probably more opportunity to punch up the humor. Probably, obviously we're working with a really limited, super small budget here, but probably some opportunities to punch up some of the horror elements, right? We could have some more kind of, not that it needs to be big, gory, crazy, you know what I mean? But you could definitely punch up the horror elements as well, because there are times where it does feel really, really dialogue heavy, and I understand that it's a lot cheaper to shoot those types of scenes than some of the other stuff we mentioned. But yeah, I think that's and honestly, I think there's some of that stuff could just be cleaned up by cutting 25 minutes out of the movie, basically.
Yeah. I think the best version of this film needs to be cut down, 20, 25 minutes. But I think if you did another version of this, like a bigger budget version of this, we were talking earlier how like don't associate the laws with existing laws, make them something new and weird. I think the other part of that is also make it tied to these other monsters that we see at the end. Like we see a bunch of monsters at the very end of this film, and there's like a toad guy and a scary witch. What if the laws that Dracula sets up, like imperil people to the monsters? Like everybody has to go throw hot dogs into this one swamp, like the town's hot dogs, have to be thrown into the swamp because the frog monster wants the fucking hot dogs, like you set up a bunch of goofy laws that both help the monsters and imperil people and, and waste their time, just a bunch of stupid shit that they have to do.
There are parts where it's kind of trying to stick. I don't want to say to something realistic because it's certainly not realistic, but I think it would be in the service of the comedy would play better if it was more crazy and outlandish,
Yeah, I like there's more fun to be had. Like all the best parts of this film are the Looney Tunes slapstick stuff. But yeah. A little too dialogue heavy, a little too long. But I like what they attempted.
Yeah,
it's one of those things we always say, like, okay, but at least this person completed a movie, and this was like his first narrative feature. So as far as that goes, it's a lot better than a lot of other people have done. Fucking
100%.
Dan in the chat is talking about Killing Tree and Fish Piss, and it's like, well, yeah, those are technically completed movies, but Fish Piss is not really a movie and just it's fucking bullshit insanity, and Killing Tree is cynical garbage. Like I would gladly watch Draculaw over Killing Tree anytime. I'd gladly watch
100%.
I'd gladly watch Draculaw over the fucking Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movies, because those are cynical garbage.
Yeah, and you knew what was going to happen. There was nothing unique about it. Like even if, like I said, there are some points that kind of drag in this movie, at least you're like, can definitely say I've never watched a movie like this one,
Right.
Whereas, you watch Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and I'm like, yes, I've seen 50 movies that you could just swap in different characters. It's the same fucking movie.
Yeah. They don't care. They're shooting as fast as possible. And like, this is another one of those films that like gets the entire community involved, because it was shot in Doylestown, PA, and it's like a whole bunch of people. You can see a whole bunch of similar last names because it's just getting a whole bunch of friends and family involved, which is far better than cynical, just drag trash of, getting a bunch of people who think they're going to be famous. I don't know how many people got on board this film thinking they were going to be famous, or more just thinking we're going to have a fun time. Yeah.
You can pull off horror. I mean, I point at now it might have had a little bit more of a budget, but I don't think it certainly wasn't a big budget, but like, hey, from the other side of the state, look at your Bigfoot the movie and the Bigfoot the sequel, right? Like those were genuinely really funny. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Now they did have a little bit more in the way of like practical effects. They had the suit and all that sort of stuff, but you can there may need to be, I don't mean to say this and sound I mean this in an overly critical or a mean way, but I do believe there needs to be a comedic mind involved to punch up some of the comedic elements of this, because there are some fun like slapstick stuff, but as far as writing comedic dialogue, I do think needs to be a comedy writer involved, right, to kind of punch some of that stuff up.
Yeah, and that's what Bigfoot the movie actually has that makes it funnier than even movies with a bigger budget than it, is that Kurt and a couple other guys who are part of that, those two movies are actual comedians,
right?
Like, so yeah, you have to bring on somebody, whether they're like, I don't know, a fucking open micer or something, like give somebody who's a comedian like their first shot at being funny, just to razz up your film a little bit. So IMDb says the estimated budget on this film was 1.25, which that sounds about right. Like with all of the actual practical effects and with all the location shooting they do and with all the extras that are in there, it kind of sounds about right. Like they do, with all the location shooting, because like that one,
I would have thought a lot less from me, but I don't know as much how much some of this production stuff costs, but that sounds exponentially higher than I would have guessed.
Yeah, it sounds kind of right for me. Also, there's inflation involved. There's
sure.
I think a lot of it goes into location shooting, because like that one space they went to was the one that was kind of like the Gothic castle type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is like an actual museum that's in Doylestown.
Yeah.
So like they had to do that, and then like they had to find like an actual courtroom, I think, or so they probably have to actually pay for permits to shoot in those spaces rather than run and gun. And I'm willing to bet that's where the majority of the budget went to.
Sure. I know Dan in the chat just said, imagine Fish Piss with 1.25 million. That would be a snuff film, a self snuff film. I think that would be essentially the equivalent of just like giving, like doing like the old Dave Chappelle, what was it, $500,000 coke party or crack party or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it would just be a bunch of people doing a bunch of meth, end up shooting each other. Like the movie would never get made. It would just be a headline in a newspaper of like mass carnage, rural massacre happens.
It might turn into the first legitimate found footage film, because after everybody kills each other and themselves on that production, then whoever finds that footage reconstructs the film they were trying to make.
Yeah. Yeah. It will end up being an origin story for a found footage movie someday.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Go ahead.
Ooh, Ron says that would be like giving Tommy Wiseau $1.25 million to remake The Room. And Ron, I will tell you, Tommy Wiseau made The Room for $7 million. So you're actually undercutting his budget.
$7 million to make that movie?
You have to read the book The Disaster Artist. The way he wasted,
I didn't see the Franco thing either. I didn't see. Right. I've seen The Room several times, but I've never seen. I've never read the Disaster Artist or seen the movie.
So I'll tell you one of the most insane things about The Room and the way he filmed it is he shot it on video and 35 millimeter at the exact same time. Like he had. So
he's like, that almost sounds like something somebody would do if they were trying to make a movie for money laundering purposes. Like they're trying to hide income, like they're trying to hide movie or hide losses or something.
That definitely comes up in the book. That movie is fine. It's okay. I don't. Yeah, it's whatever. I don't hate it. But the book that was written by Greg Sestero is so much better because it's so good, and like he wrote it in a way where like every chapter kind of jumps back and forth, and like the first chapter is like him kind of meeting Tommy and like the way they are together away from the movie, and then a chapter of movie production, and then a chapter of just the two of them together. It's a really great book, and it's so wild. The way
I have to read it. I'll have to read it. I haven't read much nonfiction in a long time, so I'll have to pick that up.
I mean, it reads like fiction, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Anything else before we wrap up this here Sumbitchin' Minisode?
I don't know. Did you see the new trailer for Toxic Avenger that came out?
I did. I am excited for it. I mean, look, there's good performers in it. I love the, like, it's bonkers that they have so much talent tied to this. Like, to have Peter Dinklage and Elijah Wood in this movie is kind of fucking insane. So, like, two of the best actors of like the last, half a century.
Right.
It's kind of fucking wild. So I'm pretty excited for it. It's funny that not funny. I know the whole story behind it, and like, it's unrated, and it was deemed completely unreleasable, unmarketable, all that stuff. And then essentially the fans, if you will, came out and kind of breathed life back into it. But it seems not weird. They are pushing it really hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously not the trailer. Like, this is releasing a new trailer a couple months before the movie comes out, like, makes a lot of sense. But like, they're promoting it like crazy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And have been for like months and months before it comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems like a weird promotional strategy is all.
Yeah. It does feel like, like a whole lot of eggs in one basket type promotion.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's also part of the promotion where you're talking about how, it's unrated and everything. And that was part of the new trailer. They're like, it's the biggest unrated film of all time from the people who brought you Terrifier 3. So like, they're even adding that, that little twinge of like, oh, Terrifier 3 was fucked up. They blew up a bunch of kids. And now, so. Yeah. So like, they're going full guns on it. But like, also, I think it's a film that they should go full guns on. Like, don't let something as magical as a sweaty, grimy Elijah Wood sit in somebody's fucking hard drive. Fuck that. You gotta bring him out so he can get stabbed through the guts with a fucking giant mop.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm definitely gonna go see it. I think the new trailer got me even a little bit more excited about it. Because you saw some more imagery of Elijah Wood and stuff on it. So,
what's the character's name in Rocky Horror? That's who he looks like, though.
Oh, Riff Raff.
Yeah, he looks like Riff Raff in Rocky Horror, and that's fucking great.
He does. He does. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. A lot of good shit coming out here towards the end of the summer, and then obviously we're getting into the spooky season. Not too long, not too far down the old path here, guys. It's almost the end of June, and you know what? As soon as July 4th is over, you know what that means? That means it's pretty much pre-spooky season. So they already had some Halloween shit up at the Costco, you guys. You believe that?
Yeah.
Believe that shit?
I believe that shit.
Okay. Anything else before we wrap this up? Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, hey, if you're interested, go check out Dracula. It's now on all the major streaming platforms, which was like, kind of the main thing Scott was hoping for, just like to let people know it's out there to go watch. I say, give it a try. I'm sure, I don't know what it costs, but I'm sure it's probably only like $3 or $4. Give it a shot.
Go check it out. Support small independent filmmakers. We always appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, for the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
Steve.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.